The Muscatine City Council will come to order. Welcome, everyone. It's very nice to see such a healthy crowd in council chambers tonight. As always, we begin our council meetings with a roll call. Fran?
Councilmembers Raywalt.
Here.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
Natfig.
Present.
Shahade.
Present.
Bynum.
Present.
Phillips.
Present.
Spread.
Present.
All absent, Your Honor.
Meeting adjourned. Lack of a quorum.
Present, Your Honor.
I think we're here, Fran.
Put that one in the newspaper.
Folks, would you rise and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You've never done
Thank you, everyone, and again, welcome. If there's anyone in council chambers tonight that has an issue they'd like to discuss with council that is not included on tonight's agenda, now would be the time to come to the podium and tell us your name and address. I'll take that as no issues. That's always a good thing. We have a special presentation tonight, so could I have the two firefighters join me at the podium? I'm sure, folks, more times than we are aware of, ordinary citizens in Muscatine do extraordinary things. Tonight is such a case, and we're recognizing two of Muscatine's finest firefighters slash emergency medical technicians. I'd like to read to you excerpts of a letter that was composed by Chief Bennett, who is in the audience tonight. Or Captain Bennett, I'm sorry, I just promoted you. Anyway, thanks, Harold. Excerpts from a letter from Captain Bennett to the Red Shift, and it's relaying some expressions of a particular medical professional at U of I hospitals and clinics. Dr., I probably butcher this, Giroto wanted to commend our team that brought the patient to the U. He stated to me on the phone that these guys did a wonderful job and that the patient went right into the cath lab with a large blockage and was having a massive heart attack. Their treatment and quick response had a positive impact on the patient's outcome. The two employees standing in front of you tonight that did patient care were Tom Summit and Josh Rudolph. Thanks to Tom and Josh for your hard work on these two calls, and there must have been a second call involved as well. You may have saved and or changed someone's life today. It's not every day you have a doctor call and give a commendation to a crew. So that's why we are here tonight, part of the reason, and I wanted to recognize these two gentlemen for their expertise in their field of endeavor, and they together, along with the other firefighters and EMTs with the Muscatine Fire Department, is why our fire department is one of the best in the state of Iowa. So please acknowledge their good deeds. Gentlemen, please allow the council to shake your hands in recognition, okay? Thank you for what you do.
Good work.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Is she yours?
Great job, Josh.
Congratulations. Thank you. Job well done. Thank you, son. Congratulations. Thank you. Tom, congratulations. Good to meet you, too.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Tom. Thank you for your service.
Congratulations, Josh. You got a cutie up there.
Congratulations, Josh. Somebody's having fun.
Okay, we'll move down to item 5 on tonight's agenda, which is the consent agenda. Following items are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items 6A through B, items 8A through F, Filing of communications, which is 12A through E, and tonight's bills totaling $1,589,695.50.
So move.
Motion by Bob,
Second.
second, Mike. Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Opposed, nay? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, now down to item 8G. The city contracted with AJ Associates last spring to complete a study on the Art Center and City Hall's HVAC systems. Both facilities recently had new boilers installed. City Hall's focus is on energy conservation as well as air conditioning, and the Art Center is concerned with humidity control and energy conservation. The results of the studies give the city options on implementation as well as costs and tax incentives. At this time, a representative of AJ Associates will give a presentation on the HVAC studies for the Muscatine Art Center and City Hall.
Your Honor, as Vic's going to head up to the podium, we have Vic Amoroso tonight with A&J Associates. Vic put together the studies that you have before you tonight. It was a little more complicated than we thought. It's taken a little while to get back here, at least the Art Center, with the humidity controls. Vic was kind enough to put together a summary page for each of the studies based on their recommendations for you tonight. Vic's going to give a brief presentation on the findings and for council information. This is your opportunity, obviously, to ask questions that you might have, but it's kind of the first step. We plan to come back to the council and to the Art Center board, discuss different stages that we could bring forward to complete the projects, and obviously have a financial plan to address the issues as well. So that'll be kind of the next step in the process moving forward. With that, turn it over to Vic, and we'll start with the Art Center, I believe.
Welcome, Vic.
Well, good evening. Yes, we can do that. As Greg said, we've been spending some time doing the two studies, and they were fairly complex, and the Art Center study is about that thick. We looked at a lot of different alternatives, so we've condensed that down into a summary. Took quite a bit of time. We looked at a lot of different options for the Art Center, and I call it the museum, the Musser House. That's a complex building just because of its shape and its age. Right before I came to this meeting, I had a meeting with the Board of Trustees of the Art Center, and I went over the presentation with them. But I'm going to hit the highlights. If you have any questions, just interrupt me or just ask the question. That'll work, and we can go into detail, but I'm going to hit the highlights. Our recommendations are, of all the studies we looked at for the Art Center Museum, we recommend a variable refrigerant flow system, and that's one of about 6 different systems we took a look at. That's a system that's similar to what's in the Muscatine County Courthouse. For those of you that walk through the courthouse and see, that was done a couple of years ago. We also recommend that this system be coupled with a geothermal heat system. It's similar, that heat pump system or the geothermal system is similar to what you have in the fire station, police station, and then what Muscatine County has for the courthouse and the jail, and soon to be the admin building. The geothermal loop field heat exchanger system would be located on the site. There's sufficient land in the area that you could locate a geofield. And Muscatine does have, at least the other projects we've done around here, they have very good ground condition, soil conductivity. So it's one of the better places to put geothermal in the state of Iowa. Also, we've added to because of the nature of the building, the artifacts, art exhibits, historic components, we have to put in sophisticated or fairly sophisticated humidity control the year round. They they have limits of plus or minus 5% they want to see, so that was included in the system. We did look at the windows in the 1970 building are problematic, and we did look at that, and we would recommend in the study as a window replacement for the 1970s building. The city has done a very nice job of maintaining the windows in the Musser House. Those meet muster and don't have to be replaced, in our opinion. We were asked to take a look at historic preservation, potential tax credits, that sort of thing, for both these buildings. And the 1970s building probably does not qualify. And one of the problems that we've been talking with the historic preservation architects, one of the problems you have is the buildings are connected. So there's a good potential or some potential for the Musser House and work that you do there to be eligible for those tax credits. And the tax credits are very significant. I mean, the county's getting significant tax credits for the work in the courthouse and their old buildings. But, we wanted to throw that out, so anything you do there, our recommendation is you don't put systems in or build things or change the ground so you jeopardize that tax credit. If that's, you want to keep that in mind when you're doing planning. The other thing I wanted to point out is these projects out there can be phased. You can do it in a sequence that makes some sense from energy savings or for budgeting. For instance, you can do the window replacement at a time different than you do the HVAC upgrades. You can do HVAC upgrades for the Musser House at one time. You don't have to do them at the same time. You do them in the Art Center, and the Art Center doesn't have to be upgraded at the same time, so this can be phased. Outside weather conditions obviously would limit when you can do window replacement and when you can put the geothermal field in, because they're temperature sensitive. The inside VRF system can be installed anytime during the year and while the facility is occupied. That's one of the reasons we recommend that system. It is so, I'm going to say building friendly. You don't have big ductwork that you have to run around, so it's the least disruptive system that we know about. And we do use that type of system in a lot of historic preservation. And then I guess the conclusion that everybody kind of sits on the seat for is, well, what's this all going to cost us? And we do a cost estimate, and we looked at this cost if you did everything at one time. So that's how we looked at it. We do a median cost, and then we do a plus or minus, and I think we did on this about 30%, because we see bids swing that much, quite frankly. So rather than giving you one number, so our median cost range would be $1,324,000 for all the projects we recommend, with a low cost of $927,000 and a high cost of $1,721,000. Does anybody have any questions?
We haven't had any, or very limited humidity controls in that.
I guess I should add one thing too, and I forgot, Randy wanted to make sure I did this. You invested an upgrade for the Musser House with the boiler system. That's not thrown away, that's incorporated in this system. So I forgot to mention that. So that's, as I told the Board of Trustees, that would be what I would consider the first phase of the upgrade. You've already improved a portion of the heating system. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to before.
Because in some discussions earlier, the humidity controls haven't been in place in that facility at all.
No, there's nothing there. Essentially, in my opinion, the Art Museum has a bunch of residential furnaces. Now, that's kind of simplistic, but compared to what and that doesn't do much dehumidification for you. This system that we're proposing has pretty a lot better dehumidification, and then we're going to supplement that or recommend supplement with special dehumidifiers that we pretty much as a course for this type of building, if libraries and that sort of thing, we would do historic preservation where it's real important to control humidity. When I say control, we would add humidifiers too, because it's not just the high humidity, it's the low humidity. You have to maintain level. The swings, spikes in humidity are detrimental to the building and more so to the artifacts and exhibits.
So are we going to the Cadillac version of that, or is it?
I don't know, this actually of this, when you take the requirements that we have for the building, maintaining temperature and humidity, this is not the Cadillac at all. This is the lowest, what we recommended is the lowest first cost, life cycle cost, and it's at the bottom tier of first costs.
Well, I was thinking of the humidification and dehumidification systems.
I wouldn't call it,
Okay,
well, maybe somebody accuses me of doing high-end HVAC systems and, that, but no, this is something that's pretty prevalent in the HVAC industry. It's we use a slipstream, what we call slipstream dehumidification. So you always dehumidify a smaller stream of the air you're circulating, and it gives you better control, and you spend less capital and equipment. It's something that's becoming real popular in the HVAC industry as if they've gotten better controls the last couple of years. I wouldn't call it the Cadillac.
Cadillac.
No, not at all.
okay. Two other questions I had, and I started reading through your document tonight, and I started seeing that 1.7 million, and it was kind of causing me to shake a little bit. But the equipment that is proposed to be replaced in the Stanley Gallery, the 1970 vintage, is that original to the building?
I believe so, yes. And I don't have the records, I'm sure it's been repaired over the years, but the system in essence is original.
And
The
then
only new equipment over there is the new boiler system.
Yeah, that we just put
Did
in.
you just put in, yes.
Okay. And the windows in the Stanley Gallery, is that just big single pane, or is there thermal?
Well, they're kind of what I would call, or the architects would call storefront. They're from wall to ceiling. And they're those aluminum frames.
Right.
And the gaskets are no good. I put my hand on them tonight when I was over there. It's almost outside air temperature. Then you can see what you're fighting.
So you're proposing to replace that entire unit?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And these numbers contain a fairly significant amount of window replacement. I mean, that's not unusual because at the courthouse, they had to replace the windows. In fact, they replaced the windows before they did the HVAC.
Yeah, right.
So that's, if you're gonna spend, to get the humidity and temperature under control, you really have to take care of the windows over there. If you want that, to use that space as it was intended.
Okay.
The old house and the Musser house, they've taken care of the windows. You've already spent money to get those taken care of, upgraded, or whatever you've done with those.
And then you also, there's a note in there that you could save some money by elimination of the dehumidification and system in the storage areas. But isn't that
Well,
where
I did-
a lot of the,
Why I did that was we were looking for ways to kind of reduce the cost. I was
Right.
asked by staff, is there ways you can come up, maybe you decide you're just gonna do special dehumidification in one space. So we took a look at that.
well, the last time I was in the building, the house behind, and they had a lot of artifacts that they were storing and trying to get them ready to be cataloged and so forth, and it was kind of like the worst storage facility that I'd ever seen for something you were trying to keep. I just thought that would be
That wouldn't
short-sighted.
be, yeah, that's not a recommendation. I was just asked, is there any way that you can,
Okay,
when we first came up, we've presented this study in phases over the last couple of months, and they had the same reaction you did when they saw the cost.
So I think they may refer to that as a carriage house where they
Yes.
store that. And so that's not included in these numbers then,
No,
correct?
it is. We
Oh, it is?
included, yes.
It is.
The big numbers, yes.
but you could save some money if you wanted to
Oh, I see.
eliminate.
Well, maybe
Which
it's
is not-
looking, maybe it's looking at saving, maybe you defer you know, you can kind of spread this out as soon as you can, you know, you can get your arms around.
I think the carriage house may have had some deferred maintenance on it already, and maybe it's time to help it.
You talked about different phases. How many phases would you recommend doing, and how long will these phases take? 3 years, 5 years, 7 years? What's your recommendation?
I think I'm going to jump in there, if you don't mind. We just met with Vic as well the other day, and that's kind of the next step, is for us to sit down and put those phases together. Melanie and Randy and myself and Vic, you know, and we had met, and, you know, the windows seem to be an obvious first stage. There's other issues over there. There's still some electrical issues. There's some paving issues. If we end up putting the wells in the back in the parking lot, you know, there'll be some repaving issues. So really, this may not even be this is not the entire cost. So that's kind of the next step, is to sit down as a group, put those stages together, and then look at financing, and a financial plan and how we can pay for it.
At this point, do we have any estimate, maybe this is for you, Greg, on the historic, any credits, the dollar amount to that?
25%,
Well, one of the things, I got to be a little careful about this, because right now, it's a little iffy for the building over there because of the 1970s. I consulted with Doug Steinmetz, who's, I consider the preeminent historic preservation architect. So when I get into the city hall, it's a different story, but I will say there's still a potential for that, but the potential would be for the Musser House only. There's no historic potential for the 1970s.
Just the mansion, yeah.
but it's 25% of the cost.
It's 25% of your total cost, and you have a 60, and this goes to what you're asking about, a 60-month window. You can go backwards and you can go forwards. Let's just say that you get an okay, or you get on the list that you're going to get, and it's $2 million. I'm going to say $2 million because I can go through that. That's $400,000 or $500,000. Well, then you don't have to do that project. You draw against that $500,000 as you do those projects.
There's a potential we could go back and get 25% of the
For the
project
boilers,
cost
yes.
for the boilers here at City
Yes,
Hall.
absolutely.
Depending on that 60-month time frame. So I guess in answer to your question, it's basically going to be no more than a 5-year program.
Yes. I guess coming up, I just want to throw something in coming up with the phases. And when you asked us, we talked about your electrical upgrades, and I said, well, before you do that, let's think about, because the buildings aren't set up electrically to do air conditioning. So if you're going to do air conditioning, you're going to have to change the electrical. So maybe you want to defer the electrical, or do the electrical when you do the air conditioning, and kind of break that up in smaller chunks. So you really have to sit down and see how you want to do it. I like to do it because you're in and out, and you don't drag this on, and you know where your costs are. Just on the project costs, is once you start, do the whole thing from start to finish. That's what they did over at the courthouse. And they had that done, and I guess I'll say that's kind of a fast track. They started construction inside the courthouse the 1st of January, and we're finished by June. So if you want to use that approach, you can go pretty quickly. I'm not saying you can do that here, because you got exhibits and things that you got to move, and that went extremely well. But so you can see it can be that close, and then I've got some where we do phasing that takes 2-3 years to finish up, just because that's all you're allowing the contractor to do.
Well, then the problem I have with that is mobilization costs for the contractor, because they move out and then they move in, and every time they move in and out, they charge you more money.
Well, you're going to pay 15%. That's the problem. You're going to pay 15% if you defer these. So let's say you had $1 million, but if you break that up into 4 projects, you're going to pay 15% on top of that every time you bring the guy back. And then you do stand the risk of not getting very good bids the second, third, or fourth time. That's the chance you take.
But there are some logical stages, like you
Absolute-
mentioned, like the windows.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They could easily be bid out in a separate stage and should be done in my,
And it should be done anyway.
should be done, well, it should be done first before you start
Right.
addressing humidity controls.
Because that defeats the purpose of the new HVAC. You're wasting energy and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. I would say, yeah, the windows would be one of the first things that I would do.
So what's the insulation value of the walls over there?
Not very
Just a
good.
little bit above the glass?
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Well, now, think about this. And I don't know why architects did this, but from floor to ceiling, glass, and they've got those aluminum dividers that have essentially no insulation, and it radiates heat in the summer and cold in the winter, and if you had humidity control, if they were controlling, bringing the humidity up, you'd have frost on the windows on the inside. So, not a very good situation what you have now. It should be fixed.
Council, any other questions for Vic regarding the Art Center?
Now, one or two more, the existing AC units, they're inadequate, but are they near the end of their useful life on top of that, or?
Yes, that's my understanding from Jerry McKenzie. He says he's there fixing things and replacing things. Is that not right? I'm not, yeah, that was one of the impetuses for doing the study over there. So you're gonna have to spend some money to fix what's there, that's just keep it going at the less than desired level.
Okay. And the other one, let's see, was, when we talked about phasing, payback, natural gas payback,
Well,
that hasn't been
they-
looked at this point yet, huh?
Well, yes, it has, it's done. The natural gas payback you did when you did with the boilers. We've already done that, you've already got the payback. The problem with calculating payback on these two buildings is that the city of Muscatine, or your buildings, you don't pay anything for electricity. You use less, but you're not, so we assign some arbitrary values or similar values if you were in the private sector or you're the county, but you're not gonna, you just don't have any savings, because you're not paying for
Not
the
for
KW.
electricity, but we would for gas, huh?
Well, but as I said, the gas, we've already done that with the boilers.
Inside there, okay.
So you've already got that taken
Counted
care
for
of.
that, okay.
And you also got the energy grants for it. So from the gas standpoint, you've already done it in both buildings.
Okay.
And you say you pretty easily could come up with numbers for the electricity, even though we don't,
I did, it's in the study.
it's in the study?
And what we did was we take the county or what they pay Alliant, and this is a KW per hour cost, and we did another one, say if that increased 50%, just to give you an idea.
Okay.
If electricity goes sky high.
Okay,
So there are some payback numbers and energy saving number estimates in the study.
okay, thank you.
I'm not an expert on this here, but let me sum it up. We have a bad system right now, the end of its life. You're proposing a new system for 1.3 million with 30% swing, either 900,000 or up to 1.7. Let's do it and move forward here. Don't piece it up. Let's do it and do it right. And I know there's tax abatement to go with it, like Phil, which he's familiar with the contractor, in and out, you don't want that. And if the windows, that's the first step to do it, why don't you just give us the stages that you're going to propose how you want to replace that? And we can look at that stage by stage and give us a time frame when it's going to start, when it's going to finish. And if the taxes is going to be included in that, for how long a period, let's do it. It's very simple, it's just common sense.
It's kind of, I agree, Osama, it's kind of like what we did with the waste treatment facility.
Yep, that's it.
Rather than piecemeal it out
Yeah,
over a
that's-
10-year period, let's just
do it.
just do it.
Yeah.
Osama?
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with you. You're exactly right. Plus, we have a responsibility to protect that collection.
Sure.
God only knows what the dollar amount would be put on
That's
that.
priceless. Some of them, I think, Melanie probably would know
millions,
that, but I'm
indeed.
sure
Two
some
of
them
us have spent some time on the board, and will tell you that it's a bigger number than you can ever imagine.
Yeah.
It's worth protecting.
Yeah,
Indeed, and it's our responsibility to protect it.
Yes.
so, let's, I don't know, Mayor, asking for consensus here, or what's
Well, I
what's
think
your
it's a
say?
good idea, and I'm hearing 3 out of the 7, Councilman Bynum.
So moved.
Your opinion?
So move.
Well, I'm not asking for a vote, just a consensus, Scott?
Well, I agree that there's a definite need here, and you know, the financing that's the tricky part. That's what has to be, more consideration of how we're gonna approach this thing, but, you know, having served on that board, you know, I agree with Tom that there's some very, very valuable assets there, and it's also one of Muscatine's major, I don't know if I can call it attractions, but assets and community assets. We need to do what we can to preserve it.
Okay, I think Greg has all the information he needs, but now the rest of the story. Let's talk about this building, Vic.
We don't have anything valuable here, so. Next item.
Well, we did a very similar study for city admin building or city halls. I like to use a short version. And the outcome, as far as systems goes, it's very similar to the Art Center. It's a variable refrigerant flow system, and this actually falls into line a lot better because this building is very similar in layout to the courthouse, so we can do vertical work, and it follows the project that we just did, converting the steam radiator heat to hot water heat. So this falls right in. That's a perfect system to put air conditioning in, and the equipment can fit in next to the boilers. We cannot do a geothermal loop field. It's not feasible based on ground conditions. And this goes out based on the work we've done here when we were doing the police station and the police and fire station. If you remember, maybe you don't, the geothermal, we finally had to move that under the parking lot, which I think worked out okay because the deal with the county fell through. But there's no real estate because of a sewer. So we've looked at that for you. We've had contractors look at it, and we've drilled, and it's just not in a good spot to do geothermal. So unfortunately, from that saving standpoint, you can't get geothermal in. But the variable refrigerant flow system that's air-cooled is a very efficient system, even if it's not that efficient. We also looked at window replacement here. We had the Doug Steinmetz, the historic preservation architect, come down, take a look, and we had Pella come down, he had Pella come down and take a look, and what a recommendation, and to keep the historic character of the building. And if you look in the report, he also did some research and say for some of the old building used to have awnings on it and that sort of thing, and he's recommended, and that's an energy saving, get back to that old character. So we would recommend the window and replacement and adding vestibules and upgrading the front door. And we do think those envelope upgrades should be performed before you do the HVAC. I mean, we've done the heating, do the windows, then do the HVAC. The city administration building is eligible for the tax credit. There's no question in Doug's mind. And again, that's you can go back. You can get the windows covered, the boiler installation you can get covered. I guess in this building too, if you wanted to, you could phase the projects if you were so minded. as Greg says, it makes sense maybe to replace the windows first. I mean, that's what we usually see. Probably 4 out of 5 projects. We do have one courthouse project where they've replaced the HVAC and they're still trying to figure out how to do the windows. They did that backwards, but
I would think so.
that's not what I would recommend, so get the windows replaced. And then this system would use to, it's a perfect fit with the hot water heating system you just invested in, this system. The outside weather conditions would limit when the windows could be replaced. The inside VRF system could be installed anytime during the year. And if you want to use the courthouse as an example, you could probably get it done, construction time, probably get it done in 4 to 6 months.
And we would lose these wonderful architecturally correct windows that are.
Well, now, they're supposed to maintain the old, what they are is they build them, so they're energy efficient, but they're out of wood, and they look just like the old windows. And then.
That would be wonderful, actually.
And, you know, to replace these things that includes cost, the casings around that need to be fixed, that.
But they would maintain that.
Yes, but where they had to replace it, there is some deterioration in some of the.
Right.
The condensation has taken care of or has done some damage.
Right.
So, and I have some cost projections. We did the architectural envelope upgrades, and we did it with just a straight cost estimate and then with a tax credit. And so you can see $530,000 for the envelope, and that's all the doors and vestibules, and that's $400,000 roughly if you get when you take the tax credit. And then the HVAC here, we have a median cost of $514,000 with a low of $385 and a high of $642. And then the combined, we have a high range of $1,040,000, median cost range $910,000, and a low cost of $782,000. And that's this is a smaller building than the courthouse, that for the HVAC, that cost about just shy of $1 million to do that. So that's within range. But this is done later, so costs have gone up. So, does anybody have any questions about this building?
A fine job.
Thank you.
Guess not, Vic. Thanks for your presentation. Okay, council, let's move on to item 11 from the city administrator. Presented for city council's consideration is the final reading of an ordinance amending chapters 4 and 5 of Title 10 of the city code relating to floodplain management regulations. In order for the city's regulations to be compliant with the federal regulations, they must be revised to incorporate the recently revised FEMA flood insurance rate maps, or FIRM, that go into effect April 16th, 2014. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance on the final reading as submitted and to direct for its publication as required by law?
So moved, Your Honor.
Tom, and a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Second, Scott. Any discussion, council? This is a roll call, beginning with Tom.
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Osama?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And Mike?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Item B, presented for city council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing on a proposed urban renewal plan amendment. The city is considering the use of tax increment financing in support of the H.J. Heinz Company's expansion of their manufacturing facilities, operation, and workforce within the urban renewal area. Prior to the consideration of any new projects or changes to the adopted consolidated urban renewal plan, a public hearing is required. This hearing will be held on Thursday, February 12th, 2014 at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Osama. And a second?
Second.
Second.
Second, Phil. Any discussion? Roll call, beginning with Osama.
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
And Bob?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Item C, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing on a proposed development agreement with the H.J. Heinz Company, including annual appropriation of tax increment payments. In previous action, City Council took action to set a public hearing concerning the amendment to the Consolidated Urban Renewal Area. The next step is to set a public hearing concerning a proposed development agreement in support of H.J. Heinz Company's expansion of their manufacturing facilities, operation, and workforce. Prior to any formal action by City Council, a public hearing is required. This hearing will take place Thursday, February 20th, 2014, at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So move.
I heard Jeanette over there. We'll give that to her. Bob, you want the second?
Second.
Okay, and a discussion, council? Another roll call, beginning with Jeanette.
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Osama?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And Tom?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Item D, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a United Way grant submission for fiscal year 2015. The Muscatine Municipal Housing Agency, or MMHA, is in its third full year of operating the after-school program at Sunset Park Apartments. In 2013, the United Way of Muscatine granted the MMHA $15,000 in program grants to support this program's operation during the school year. The MMHA staff has completed the United Way application for the fiscal year 2015 and is requesting $24,650 in grant funding to support the program's operations. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Ooh, Tom. Second.
So move.
Second, Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Item E, presented for City Council's consideration is a request from the Water Pollution Control Plant to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for a bond and schlei control upgrade. Two bids were received for this upgrade, with a low bid from Automatic Systems in the amount of $29,546. However, staff is recommending the issuance of a purchase order to the ICS Healy Ruff in the amount of $32,260 for this upgrade. ICS Healy Ruff is more familiar with the city's system and performed the previous 5 station installations. There is $30,000 budgeted for this project, which will be revised to $33,000 by pulling $3,000 from the current approved line item. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So move.
Mike, and a second?
Second.
Second, Tom. Discussion, council?
Is there any equipment here that's causing this to bring forth this change? The equipment that one company is able to deal with and the other one isn't? Is there,
The equipment is pretty much identical. It's the programming. When you get two different people programming your systems, you end up with really screwy programs. So if you have consistency with the people who are putting it in, we end up with a lot smoother installations, a lot smoother. Any kind of work they need to come down and do is better as well, so.
would this be closer to a professional services contract then? Which we could pick and choose?
Probably,
I'm looking
yeah,
at it,
probably so, I guess. Technically, you're probably right, yeah.
because that to me is where you're coming from is.
Well, the whole point is
there's-
the equipment is everywhere. I mean, it's not specific to any one company anymore. That's the problem we're running into now. It's so specific, and the company that used to make it is not making it anymore. So the equipment we can buy from anyone, anywhere, pretty much. It's the professional service that we're buying from ICS Healy is what we're really buying, so.
Professional service, maybe sole provider would be a better,
Okay,
we
because
could- we-
professional, in my understanding, you can correct me, but professional services contract, you don't have to take the low bid.
no, you just have to do it, I mean, you can do an RFQ, you don't have to do an RFP, or a bid, but it's probably more, in my mind, more like a sole provider for the service.
And we could have done it that way, I guess, but I wanted to make sure that they were in the ballpark of the price, and we were pretty close.
John, as long as you're up there, it says, there was 5 previous, this is number 6, or there's
This is 6 and 7, and there's actually 14 to do.
14, okay.
Yeah, 8 more, I believe, to do.
Oh, gosh, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Now, some of these we did, 15 years ago, and these are just upgrades to that older equipment?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Because we put in the SCADA system quite a number of years ago, long before you were here.
Yeah, the SCADA system at the plant is what retrieves the information from the radios that send
That are at this-
that send it, and the FCC is requiring digital installation of all their equipment, of any radio signals. So, and we have to secure our frequencies that we have right now with those digital signals.
Okay.
Otherwise we could lose them. So,
Okay.
Council, any more questions for John?
I agree with John. I've been around projects like this, and as soon as you get a second programming theory and practice involved, it's just chaos. And then you're remembering, well, who did what, when, and who's the legacy system, and what were the differences, and why won't they talk to you? You're exactly right, John, from my experience.
Anyone else? Thank you, John. This is a voice vote, folks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Item F, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to extend the audit agreement with McGladrey LLP. In March of 2009, the city entered into an agreement with McGladrey LLP for audit services for a 5-year period from fiscal year 2008 and 9 through 2012 and 13. Staff is requesting a 1-year extension to the current audit agreement, primarily due to the change in financial software midway through the fiscal year 2013-2014. McGladrey's familiarity with the previous software would allow them to focus on the new system and the conversion of data from the old software. McGladrey's proposal for the 1-year extension is $45,400, which is the same amount as the recently completed 2012-2013 audit. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
so moved, Your Honor.
Scott?
Second.
Second,
Either one.
Bill? Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Now to item 14 on the agenda tonight, communications from council members, and we'll begin with Councilman Raywell.
Done, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Phil?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Scott?
Glad to see Leadership Muscatine here tonight, and from your comments, you had a good session immediately before city council tonight, so that's good to hear.
Sama?
I have nothing, thank you.
Bob?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Jeanette?
I just wondered, Greg, is there any way you can talk to the people at J.C. Penney and see if you can get them to change their mind and stay?
You were talking to this Greg, right?
Both of them.
There's the right Greg.
Is it just way too late for that talk?
Well, I think it is, at this point in time. It's kind of a catch-22. They're not going to stick around unless folks shop here, and folks aren't shopping here until they increase their inventory, and we're kind of in a tough kind of catch-22 here. Doesn't mean we can't contact them and give it a shot, so.
I wish you would, both of you.
Very good. Tom?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Greg?
Just a reminder, real quick, closed session.
And absent Fran?
I have nothing, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Very good. My comments are simple regarding the J.C. Penney issue. Although it seems like a negative that an anchor store in the Muscatine Mall would be vacating the mall, there's got to be a silver lining in this gray cloud. If it's like being invited to a party. If you don't want to come to the party, then you're going to miss out on the festivities at the party. I agree with Greg in that their inventory for a guy that's built like I am, isn't satisfactory. I don't shop there because they don't have anything that fits me or any product that I'm interested in, and I'm hearing a lot of feedback as a result of the announcement from citizens in the area that it's not that big of a deal. And the way I see it, if they vacate that store property in the Muscatine Mall, it makes room for a bigger and better vendor with more options to come to Muscatine. It's that simple. And those are my comments for tonight.
But, Your Honor, for somebody like me, they've got my sizes, so I like to go there.
And I understand that, Jeanette, I really do. There's one vote. Item 15, under other business, is there any other business, council, we need to discuss tonight?
Closed session.
Move that we go into closed session.
Motion by Phil and a second by Scott, and this is a roll call vote, beginning with Phil.
Aye.
And Mike?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Osama?
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
Okay, the regular meeting is adjourned,
And you can get out.
and thank you again for coming, folks.